Yes, I did.
Well, I got some information on that.
Pretty specific. I'm not surprised. There's been God's been giving me so many different powerful prophetic words, but it is getting more detailed, more intense. And the enemies are really scattering and running from especially with what President Trump just put out the other day. I laughed so hard. And, we have been talking about this for like 3 or 4 years on this show of why God calls Joe Biden the Biden, because he said for a long time that Joe has already been judged. Joe has been dead for a while. And when I saw that, my husband actually showed me, thank you, Christopher, because I know he's watching. He actually showed this to me. I had no idea. I just had a prophecy that morning. It wasn't even a half an hour after I heard this prophecy. God calls Biden Gate, by the way. Like Watergate, this is Biden Gate. And he said Biden Gate will bring down the establishment. It was a very detailed prophetic word about the Biden and how all they were doing with him, and how it wasn't just an election that they stole. I mean, it goes far beyond what they did. And so I'm coming upstairs, and we were out to walk the dog, and it was right before we walked the dog. I think it was right before we walked the dog, yeah. And all of a sudden, he's like, did you see what President Trump truthed out last night? And I'm like, no, because I think it was after I went to bed. And he showed me, he's like, well, you'll be happy about this one. I said, what? And all of a sudden I read Joe Biden executed in 2020. I lost it. I didn't even know what to say at that point, because God has been saying this. And even though through the persecution and call me conspiracy theorist and all these different things that the news really wants to do to try to stop the truth from coming out, there was no way that they were going to suppress the truth any longer. And having President Trump come out and say it himself was absolutely positively like that. I don't know if it was a stone he was throwing. It might have been a pebble he was throwing, but he was letting the enemy know that he has their number and their numbers about up.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. We had a roundtable Friday on May 31st. Remember, I think we were referencing last week Don Jr.'s tweet that something big was going to happen May 31st. The dam was going to break in the rainbow coming into June. So John Guandolo, J.J. Carroll were on. They were talking about the threats they're hearing that those Summer of Love 2.0 we've been talking about was imminent, that it was going to hit. I was told, I was surprised when I saw that too. First thing I thought of was you, because there it is. We've been talking about it for 3 or 4 years. But I believe what you just said is very prophetic. I believe that stopped some other things that they were attempting to do. We know that they did have an attack in Colorado the next day. I'm told it was supposed to be much larger, and they're waiting to have this Summer of Love 2.0. That's why in the opening, they're trying to shut us down with masks again. One of the perfect reasons for that is so that you can't see when they do it. And I just had General McInerney and General Valley on 10 minutes ago, and they're saying the same thing. It's all this, everything we've been talking about is all connected, and it's about ready to open up. Red Sea moment. It's
like you can feel the intensity of it. And I think when President Trump put that on there, he put that on there for either like, back off, I'm warning you, whatever you try to do, you're not going to get it done. Because if you do this, I will release all this information in front of the world. I think it was truly a warning to them, because he knew he was going to get scrutinized. And of course, he was going to get persecuted for saying that. People were going to call him crazy. He could even have people saying the 25th Amendment, thinking, that the person he ran against is a robot and he's dead, and he's been dead for a while. But one of the prophecies that I want to give out today, because God, I had pulled up 6 the other day. You've heard these, but I think it just went so amazing with what just happened with President Trump. Because one of the things he specifically truthed out when it said that there is no Joe Biden executed in 2020. Well, God had said a different prophetic word. I'm going to get out a few of them. Most of them I think were from 2022. This is the first one. It's now time for the plagues of Egypt to be seen. And this was from September 15th of 2022. Whenever you hear of the Biden, whenever you see him, command his mouth to shut. Command his words when he is allowed to speak the truth accidentally. He will give himself away more in this time, because he is being unmasked before the world. Oh, the real one has died. Yes, the real one has died. It was no accident, and there is proof of who did it. I have it, and the world will know not only that the big lie, that they will also know every corrupt scheme, and you will watch that Biden was also die, and you will see why. So he was talking about that Joe had already died. And they said the Biden, which is the ones who are portraying him, were also going to die. We believe that there has been one that happened with the Vegas one we talked about last week. We believe that he's also one who died because somebody came out 6 inches taller. We know there's been at least 3 or 4 because the different hair the mannerisms of his face, his eyes, the ears, the mouth, the hairline, everything is completely different. So at least there's at least 3 or 4 of them. But he says, so just watch the exposure of the Biden, the exposure of Obama, and the exposures of the Clintons, and the exposures of those rulers. And yes, they are Luciferians, and they have been doing so many things to little children that I will also expose. The blood of the children, those have been crying out to me for justice, and now you will see justice be served. When President Trump said he was died by an execution, well, that's obviously, it's not a natural thing. It was done not by accident. God specifically said that. So that was one of them that he was talking about. But he also brought in, I thought was interesting, he brought in Obama and he brought in the Clintons in that one. And then, because I know that there's more things, because we also talked about how there's more than just one actor in Washington playing a political person. We know Biden is one of them. He's not the only one. And this is where it gets crazy because there's so many of them. But I want to read another one. If you want to add something to it before I go to the next one, you can.
Well, I'll just put a little tidbit. There's somebody that's an actor that you would never guess. Never guess.
Okay.
I'll just throw that nugget out. But before you go to the second part, just to validate that word from the Lord, unmask, that is literal. There's a whistleblower that came forward late yesterday, I believe, and it's starting to get the round. Oh, you'll never see it in fake news, but it's starting to get public. She comes forward with she says evidence that Joe Biden was wearing a mask and had some kind of artificial voice in whoever the actor was. So there's a whistleblower coming forward now.
I didn't even know about that whistleblower, but remember when we were talking about Biden, we were talking about his mask for like the last 3 or 4 years.
Yep.
Remember I kept mentioning the Mission Impossible movies, how that's exactly what they did. They would put masks on these people, like, Tom Cruise, who plays this person. He would be inside with all these different political leaders wearing a mask and having a different voice box and being like the person that he was portraying. And they never even knew the difference.
Yep.
And I'm like, Hollywood always does these things that the establishment is already doing. So Mission Impossible is a really great movie for that. And then, of course, you have, I'll have another prophecy on here about the one Biden anyway, was so drugged up, and that's why he was losing his cognitive functionality. I don't know if it was MK Ultra. I don't know exactly what they were using against him to change his thought patterns, to change who he thinks he was, because they had to go to that extent. But it was, he talked about losing his cognitive function and also saying that he was drugged up. One of them. At least. I don't know. Like I said, there's like 3 or 4 of them, so we have no idea.
One of them is obnoxious. He's 4 inches taller?
4 to 6.
4 to 6 inches. Yeah, the reason that happened was because of what you just said about Las Vegas. They didn't plan that, and they had to react quickly.
That goes with one of the prophecies that God has. I don't have that one pulled up. But it said that the Biden would have an underlying medical condition that they were not going to see. Well, that was really proof that day because they didn't see this stroke coming or whatever it was with that one, the Biden, and they had to take him off frantically because they were not prepared, like you said, to deal with whatever was just happening to him.
Yep.
And then we know he wasn't the one who came out from the 10 days of lockdown. So I don't know exactly, but again, because he says certain things that are different about the Bidens. So that's how I knew that there was more than one that was being used as this actor, or as like President Trump even put in that truth that he truthed out, that it was also robots and that the Democrats can't tell the truth or can't see it. They can't tell the difference, I mean.
Wow. Wow.
It's so fun. Like when I saw him say that, I'm like, this is so prophetic. It's so fun. And I was like, God, you are so amazing. You've been saying it for years, and now the truth is finally starting to come out. You know, it's vindication, and we're also going to start seeing the truth, and that he's, you know, President Trump wasn't just saying it to say it. We all know he doesn't just say anything to say anything. No. He says it because something big's coming. You
said something earlier. I don't know if you said the Lord, or it was you spoke about it before. This being bigger than Watergate. Everyone I speak to, even the media, is now saying this auto pen is far bigger than Watergate. Mm-hmm. The whole house of cards are going to unravel.
God's been saying Biden and this whole scandal was way larger than Watergate. He has referenced Watergate before. And so when he brought this prophecy up to me, I actually had to go out of order because this was not a prophecy I was going to give out on Monday, because I had one to give out on from May 26th, and I heard this one just on May 2nd. Or I'm sorry, I heard it on May 21st, but the one I had to give out about Biden Gate on Monday was from June 2nd. So I thought it was really interesting that he put me out of order, and he goes, put this one out. And I'm like, okay. When I went back and I read it, and I was like, oh my gosh, I know exactly why he said it, because he did mention again that this person was an imposter. And it was so, God's done this so many times. When I hear something prophetically, sometimes it can come like really fast out. Now, some of these I've heard 3 years ago, but this one I literally was just hearing it, and he calls it Biden Gate. And I started chuckling when he said that. And I'm like, Biden Gate, Biden Gate. He's like, yes, because Watergate was meant to take down Nixon. And it was a setup because Nixon actually didn't do what they said he did.
Right.
It was just to get rid of him because he was an establishment person. Well, then Biden Gate is so far worse because Biden Gate goes beyond them just stealing the election for Joe Biden. I mean, they literally covered up his death, and they were using different people, and because they didn't want to use the actual actor for doing the actual signing the bills and doing what a president does, then they went above and beyond that, had staff do it, had his wife do it, have other people do it. This is treason at the highest level. I mean, this is insane. And when President Trump truthed that out and said he was executed in 2020, well, he was executed, I would say, for treason. That's the only reason why you're executed.
Yeah, exactly.
It's for treason.
It's treason. Remember, John F. Kennedy Jr., there's a letter that came out in one of the, I think it was in the Kennedy files. I saw this document through a general before privately, but this came out publicly just recently. He wrote specifically to Joe Biden. This was like 20 some years ago, 30 years ago, maybe. Joe Biden, you are a traitor. Yep.
Really?
So John F. Kennedy Jr. knew something about Joe years ago.
Yeah, and I have a feeling that's the reason why his life was also in danger for a long time with the establishment, because anybody who knew the truth, they were a threat to them. And anybody who was a threat to them, they got rid of.
Right. So before you go to the rest of this prophetic word, I wish I had a drum roll just to go to kind of bring the drama up a little bit. But think about this. We've been talking about these things for 3 or 4 years. Yeah. The Lord told you these prophetically 2, 3, 4 years ago, and how outlandish the world would think those are. And now the President of the United States retruths it out.
I was sitting there thinking about all the times I was in Rolling Stone or the Huffington Post and all these other Newsweek and whatever else that I was in. And I'm this right-wing conspiracy theorist, MAGA, prophet, and then I had like 15 names behind it. I can't remember. I can't even count all the names they had me on. But one of them was conspiracy theory. And I know one of them had to have put me on with the whole Biden thing. I know they did with the Charles thing, but it doesn't really matter because that's going to come out too. But it all comes out in the end. That's right. The reason why prophetically, when it does sound crazy, you have to be bold enough to say, I know that was God and I have to say it. Yep. Because some of these things just seem so absurd. Like, how could this possibly be? And that's the reason why when I started first hearing about the Biden, and I said, why do you call him the Biden and not Joe? And then that's when he gave me that prophetic word part, and the prophetic word about him being already judged. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I had to go back and watch that movie, Dave. I told you we've talked about this before. I keep telling people, go and watch it. That's what we were watching. He died. Maybe they kept him on life support. I don't know. But they did something because, remember, God had just talked about a coffin in the White House about 2 or 3 weeks ago. We don't know which one it was. I mean, we even know when the real one died sometime in 2020. But did he win? Was he there after he supposedly won the election, or was he executed before the election? We have no idea.
Well, I was told this many years ago, and I kept it secret because there was no reason to say it. But something that Derek Johnson has said. Do you know Derek Johnson, the country music singer, veteran? He shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was here on the ranch. Actually, I had the privilege of baptizing Derek, but he came out in the beginning and saying that was a hoax, just the military. But long story short, he said that when Joe Biden supposedly took the office, it was a military or a funeral. Military funeral, not welcoming the president of the United States in. So you want to go back and look what Derek Johnson said, and if you know military protocol and you really know it, Derek is spot on. So the symbol was there, and people just didn't pick it up.
And it also makes sense too, because I've mentioned this before also, but this has been years ago. I probably mentioned this. The inauguration was complete fake. We all know it was fake. You saw the face of Jill Biden absolutely in utter panic. Yeah. There was also a video out of when they were going into the Capitol, how Nancy Pelosi was taken out.
With a marshal.
And yep. And all of a sudden, she disappeared for a few days. And I know from what the Lord has said and prophetically that I also have gotten persecution from, but I've also heard prophetically that she was one of the ones who was judged as well.
Yep. I don't know if I said this before. If I did, I probably had to be very careful about it, and this would have been years ago. I still have to be very careful how I say this. President Trump was aware of the plan, what they were going to do. He let them walk into the trap to catch them. But at first, he didn't like the plan. I'm told that he was livid. And coming from somebody that I know was in the room, and they had to hold him down for him to say, yes, Mr. President, this is the way, the path to go. And finally, he took that path. And now we're going to see what he re-truthed out.
Yep. And the one thing, it was good for him, even though at the time it looked like it was bad for him. It looked like it was bad for the country. It looked one way when it was another. Mm-hmm. God needed him to step aside to get more in tune with what God was doing. And it was also to bring the most devastation and complete annihilation to the establishment. There's more damage to the establishment that will be done because of Bidengate, again, which was what God calls it, and what they did by stealing that election. It's going to bring the entire house of cards down. What they did in 2020 will undo everything else that they have done in this nation.
Yes, you can't even, that's not even a figure of speech. The House of Cards is not even a figure of speech. Everything is coming. The election, January 6th, everything is going to be upturned. Supreme Court justice was named in there. I don't know, from a constitutional perspective, what do you do in a case like that? I don't think our forefathers even thought through such a plan.
No, but God did call it unprecedented. And he said, you don't need an election to save this nation. You need me.
Yep.
And so if we're going to have the military have to take over to bring in a new government, we don't know exactly what's going to happen because we're in uncharted territory. Yep. All we have to know, and that's the reason why God said it may look worse before it gets better, because people may not understand. When you have a majority of Congress, majority of the Senate, majority of the judicial system, you have so many people in the White House that are next to President Trump, which I will get to here soon, that are enemies of this country. And you have them so close and so embedded in Washington. You have the establishment controlling what we see with our intelligence community. I have a lot of prophecies on what the CIA has also been involved in and been controlling and leading the charge in. It is something that is so devastating. And we didn't realize this, but this is the reason why it had to shake as hard as it did and as bad as it did and as long as it did. President Trump had to step away.
Yep.
Because God's people had to turn to God. They could not keep relying on President Trump. And I love President Trump. We pray for him all the time. But he could not lean on his own intelligence and his own strength to do what has to be done for this nation. He had to be humbled before God and had to realize it is God's plan and it is God's timing. And I'm glad that he did it, because he is a more powerful and a godly president now than he was even back in 2020 when he left the office the first time when he left.
And it's starting to change the whole fabric of this country. We are literally getting on our knees and repenting, seeking the Lord's face and putting first. I had two generals just on, General McInerney and General Valley, had a roundtable about this terrorist attack that's imminent in the 40 cities that we talked about, trying to get 10 or more 9/11s at the same time. That's imminent. John Guandolo, J.J. Carroll, and another, we were all talking, and I had a couple private conversations with some generals this weekend. And it looks bleak. Every one of them said, I asked them publicly, how do we get out of this? And they said, there's no answer except pray and get involved in your local community. God is not done with this country. And these are coming from intelligence, counterintelligence from the FBI people. These are coming from Border Patrol people. These are coming from generals. They're not pastors or prophets. They're realizing the only way out of this is the power of God. And he will do it. Every one of them said he will do it.
Yeah, and we had to get on our knees, all of us. Yep. All of us had to have that humble, part of our lives, humble ourselves before God and realize that we can't do this on our own. This is too big for us to handle, but it's not too big for God. Just think how many people that we've known in the last several years. We've said it, I don't know how many times, but it's so true, and it has to be enunciated over and over and over again. So many people have turned to God more now because of what has happened in this last 5 years.
Yep.
We have had in this country too many things handed to us on a silver platter, it seems like sometimes. But we were not living that free life that we all thought we had. We weren't living under this amazing government and amazing constitution that should have been, running this country. We should have had a government that was going by the laws of this land, and they weren't. They were rogue. There had to be something that got so devastating in this nation that brought us to our knees to realize we only can have God get us out of this mess, because that is the only way. He's the way, he's the truth, and he's the life. This is going to get messy.
Yep.
God has warned it's going to get messy. God has also said to spend more time with him instead of spending time on technology. We have to prepare ourselves for what we are going to see, because like you said, how do you deal with the majority of the intelligence community that are rogue? The majority of the judicial system that are rogue, majority in the House and the Senate, and some right along President Trump. God even gets to the point where he's very specific in a prophecy who is next to him. He has people that are informants. One is from the Bilderberg group, if not two. And you also have somebody from the Illuminati.
I know who they are.
There are people, the secret societies are next to him, look like they're for him. And then I saw something else. Remember when we both had been led by God in this last couple of weeks? We both brought his name up with Lindsey Graham.
Yep.
And all of a sudden I saw something just actually right before we got on here about Lindsey Graham. And it says, war pig Lindsey Graham, a Russian victory in Ukraine will be worse than the withdrawal of the U.S. troops from Afghanistan. So he's completely going with Ukraine and not going with Russia. There's going to be a reason why we're going to find out why he sided with Ukraine, because he's going to have a lot of dirty deals that he was involved in with Ukraine.
He is one of them that we talked about last week that has ties, Mitt Romney being another one. So it's just not just Democrats, it's Republicans. Denying Dick Blumenthal, I don't remember where the senator on the East Coast somewhere, Lindsey Graham and Mike Pompeo were all in Ukraine before they struck Russia a few days ago. Michelle Bachmann was on with me yesterday, said the CIA is still mingling in Ukraine against Russia. Why would Mike Pompeo and Lindsey Graham and Dick Blumenthal all be there on taxpayer dollars? By the way, it was $800,000 for their visit, just Dick and Lindsey Graham, just their hotels and their entourage, $800,000 from the U.S. taxpayers. And then days later, that happens.
They have a lot to lose.
Yep. It's coming.
That's why they're there. And you know what? Us taxpayers are fed up with paying for these criminals in these political positions that do not belong there. And that's why we're all supposed to have that righteous indignation and start fighting back. We cannot allow these murderers and these thieves and these traitors of this nation. They're literally treasonous traitors. They're involved in the heinous things against children. A lot of them, again, you think about all the dirty things that are in Ukraine, how many prophecies I've had about Ukraine. And not only is it child sex trafficking, you also have the bioweapons there. You have so many things that our government has paid Ukraine to do or hide, and it all is going to come out. And that's the reason why all these politicians are begging and pleading and throwing tantrums and like going absolutely absurd and berserk on live TV, because they know their life is on the line and so is their position.
Yes, it is. I'll throw one more nugget out there before we get into the rest of your prophetic word. I was informed yesterday by a really, really, really good source. Jerry Nadler's office was, I think, raided over the weekend because they were harboring some illegals by ICE. And I guess one of his staffers pushed an ICE and I guess Akeem Jeffries came out today and said all ICE agents should take their mask off so they can be identified. General McInerney brought that up today. But I'm told that's not why they were in Jerry Nadler's office. And what they found is treason. That's all I'll say right now until it comes out. Wow. I had to do a double take. So they're falling left and right. They're getting hit on every level, and it's collapsing.
I think again, when Trump put that out, they had them in such a state of disarray. They don't know what they're doing anymore. And God said the more that they're in a disarray, the more they're in panic, the more mistakes they're making.
Yep.
And they are making mistakes. You can even see Nancy Pelosi or whoever is portraying her is getting out. She's looking more like the Biden every day. She's slurring her words. She loses her position. She can't understand what she's saying. She is really, really bad. God has been telling us they are going to lose their minds. They're going to lose their positions. They're going to be removed, and they will not. Now, there was a prophecy, and I've been called fake for it, that said Nancy Pelosi was not going to make the 2022 election. So if Biden was the 2020, then she was either between the 2020 or after the 2020, which I think is because she was taken off by U.S. Marshals at the fake inauguration. But something happened of her between before the midterm elections. There is also more and more we know about John Fetterman. There's also some things that I've heard, and I want to make sure, because prophetically, it's kind of like I'm not sure, but I think Hillary Clinton is also one of them who has been in trouble, where she's in Guantanamo, or she's also been offed already. I think is what it said, that she'd also been judged. So there's a lot of these people that look like they're someone when they're not really someone. I don't know why they keep doing this and why they can't just let these people go. God says they're the old guard. Mitch McConnell is another one who will definitely not make the end of his term. Mitch McConnell has obviously gotten really bad mentally and physically. We're starting to see them collapse mentally and physically, and that's part of the judgment that they're under from what they've done to this country, obviously.
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We're going to start seeing more and more of them fall. And God said, of course, that some of them would be removed by handcuffs out of the Capitol. And we were going to start seeing that.
Well, I don't want to delay the rest of the prophetic word, but one other nugget that I did hear that ties into potentially this, but something you had a prophetic word about. There was a body found in the Rose Garden.
Mm-hmm. And God prophesied about the Rose Garden. He said something, I don't remember what he said on that one, like something significant was going to happen, or something you were going to find out was going to happen that was regarding the Rose Garden. I'm telling you, there's something else that happened in the actual White House that had a coffin in it. So we'll find out what it was, and it could have been one of the many actors that were, the Biden. We don't know. So I'm curious to see who was the one who was buried in the Rose Garden. That's actually I'm very curious on that one. Because it could be just different amounts of people. I don't know. There's so many people have been killed. I just don't know.
Yeah.
It's going to be big, whoever it was.
Yeah, why would you?
Right.
And it's one of those things that they do it right in front of you to say, we can do it right in front of you in the Rose Garden.
Yep.
It was done on purpose, as symbolism. If we can do it in the Rose Garden, nobody's safe. As a threat.
That's right.
That's what it was. It was a threat.
Mm-hmm. And they think they can do whatever they want and get away with it, but they're finding out that that's not working out so well for them anymore.
Nope.
The enemies are in so much trouble. It doesn't look like it, but God also warned, like when you're talking about the summer of love, God warned about this. And you can see the reason why there could be the summer of love and the terrorist attacks God's been warning about for a long time. It was going to be worse than 9/11 because it was going to be in multiple states at one time. And the reason why he said that, you got to think, if they think at any moment in time that President Trump could drop that bombshell and prove the fact that Joe Biden was actually killed and he was not the president of the United States and there was somebody else portraying him, do you see what kind of shock and awe, which God said it was going to happen? He was bringing in shock and awe in this nation, and what it was to completely devastate the establishment and bring down the 2020 election.
Unprecedented. And then you're going to find out what January 6th was about. It was a desperate play to cover up a stolen election. Ukraine was involved in it. It's going to go tied back to Ukraine. And when the true story comes out, that was supposed to be a massacre in the Capitol. They were going to kill people and blame it on the insurrection to make it look a gazillion times worse. But by the grace of God, that did not happen. Other than
they were going to kill politicians.
Politicians, I was told they were going to take out politicians to make sure that to show that this was a true insurrection, trying to overthrow the American government. How dangerous they are.
Well, God said that they have a lot of fall people. So unfortunately, for people who are on the establishment, they're all expendable. I mean, they all can go away because they'll just pick somebody else. So that's why a lot of them are afraid for their own life, and they're afraid about who's right next to them, if they're on their side anymore or they're not, because no one can trust anybody else. They're at that point where they can't trust the person beside them.
And that's when they start to talk.
That's a very scary place to be.
Yeah, speaking of scary place to be, again, we don't want to fear, but yet we have to be aware and trust God about the Summer of Love 2.0. Just this morning, Kash Patel announced they found a CCP member and another bringing in a biological weapon through Detroit Metro from China to the they were going to take it to the University of Michigan. And that goes back to what Dr. David Martin has been saying forever. Look at these universities. COVID-19 started in North Carolina. Qatar, Michelle Bachmann told me yesterday on His Glory, Qatar spends $100 billion a year just through our universities to keep this pro-Palestine stuff going. And you know that money's being circled to, it's all connected.
Mm-hmm. God said China was involved. We're going to find out how the establishment was very deeply involved with China and how they were letting China in to collapse our country from within. That is also a prophetic word and a prophecy fulfilled of that, what you just said about these two people being caught with weapons. God's been also warning about biological warfare and what the enemies were going to try to do to lock us down again. And like you said, now we can see it.
Well, and also David Martin, Dr. David, I'm going to have Dr. David Martin back here real soon, but he also warned that he heard through some pamphlet that they're warning of July 4th of this year, a biological weapon being launched in the United States of America. All right, let's get back to the prophetic word. Then we'll talk about AI, and then I also want to mention what I brought up to you in the break. There's this doctor in CERN. As you know, they're boring into the earth to try to untap power, demonic power. These CERN doctors, physicians, whatever you want to call them, have identified at least 17 different dimensions. And she said she witnessed that there's entities, demonic entities coming out of these portals. Wow.
And the Lord has actually a lot of prophecies about CERN too. Yeah, I think there's like 1, 2, 3, 4 of those about CERN, and I actually just had one recently. Wow. I have not dictated that one out. I think I heard it. I think it'll be given out either tomorrow or Friday. It might even be next Monday. So I didn't know anything had come out more about CERN. But God has mentioned CERN this many times because He needs us as children of Almighty God and warriors in the army of the Lord. We have to start standing up and praying. We have to start standing up and praying and doing the will of God, because we are in a war of good versus evil, and the enemies have been winning for so long because the children of God were completely unaware that they were involved in anything. They thought how life was going. This is how governments are run. You're always going to have corruption. You're always going to have this and that. But it went far beyond that. This has been a evil thing that is done into this earth. And God is saying, this is not time for them to do what they're doing. It is time now to bring in my glory. So we have to start getting on the page of Almighty God and focusing on him instead of focusing on what the enemies are doing.
That's right.
So I'll read a couple more about the Biden, just because this was such a big story. So February 14th of 2022, God had another prophetic word about the Biden. And one of the things is he said, Obama will suddenly appear on the news stations and speak about the Biden. He's losing all cognitive functions. This will happen after he has a major gaffe, stating that Obama is president and speaking in his ear, telling what he has to say. And he will give his real name and that he is not Joe. The real Joe, I told you, has already been judged and he's no longer alive. So some of this has come to pass. We're going to find out. And then some of it has to still take place yet. Biden is still out in the open and he's still saying things. So I have a feeling he's revealing himself really about who he really was, because he didn't even know when Bo died and how he died. I mean, even though you're cognitively failing, I still think you would know that kind of information. So he's starting to give himself away. And how many times he had gaffe where he was actually meant to tell a lie and he told the truth, along like he said back in 2020 that they built the most comprehensive or the best election fraud system that you can build or something like that. He's been saying things he doesn't actually mean to say. And all throughout his residency, he was also saying some things that they could not believe that he was saying. So anyway, he says, you will see a video that will suppress the supposed administration. Kamala has seen it and couldn't believe an imposter took the place that she was guaranteed. So now we're going to find out that Kamala knew, and how angry Kamala was for the fact that this person was not a real person, and she was the supposedly vice president. It wasn't, the presidency wasn't given to her. She has to stand next to an actor, a fake, a fraud, and she has to contain her composure to not give it away. So, and we were told for how many times in the last few months that Kamala and Biden could not stand each other. Do you think the reason why she couldn't stand him is because he was not the real Biden to begin with? And that probably made her extremely angry. So there's going to be proof of her knowing that Biden wasn't real.
When was this prophetic word?
No, hold on a minute. That one, February 14th, 2022.
Amazing.
Yeah. So we're going to start finding out more. And then here's another one, April 28th of 2022. So this is the third one. The Biden will struggle more on TV. Look at what he does next. He will give himself more away. He doesn't know where he is or how to handle the situation. He will appear more lost until somebody comes and saves him yet again. How many times did that happen? Or he got lost and somebody had to save him on the TV because he could not figure out where he was and he got lost on stage. Then it says, remember, my children, the Supreme Court, that goes on to the Supreme Court. Let me go about another one about Biden. So this one was May 4th of 2025, I think. Yeah, May 4th. The Biden's lies and cover-ups are soon to break wide open. The truth of his medical decline, the truth of his crimes, and the truth regarding Hunter, the truth regarding stolen election, the truth on every tie he has with China and Ukraine. The biggest truth that will come out is the truth of who the Biden really is. Someone knows his true identity, and the truth will not be stopped. Not only did Joe Biden not win the 2020 election, but he was not even the real Joe Biden and was the resident in the White House. The people who carried out this deception in every way they covered up the truth will be exposed. Major proof about the great deception will come out, and so the world will know the full truth and the length the establishment and the globalists would go to steal a country. Every person involved in the Biden cover-up will be exposed, and treason will be their end. Many in Washington now and in times past have committed treason at some level, and every one of them will be judged by me, says the Lord. More will come out about the Biden administration, and he says in quotes because he's not He was not. It was not an administration. It was a rogue regime. There are people now willing to risk their lives to tell the truth about what was going on in the Biden and Kamala. Many dark secrets that were hidden in the White House during their residency, we brought out to the light. Yes, even a coffin in the basement and who was in it. There will be people found out in this coffin and kept quiet until now. No matter where they buried it and where they hid the skeletons or these secrets are now, soon they will no longer be secret. So we're going to find out again that so many people knew in the White House what really happened to him. We're also going to know who are the ones who were running the White House, because we know that Biden wasn't running the White House. And we're going to find the skeletons in the closet. How many times did God talk about skeletons in the closet? There has been a lot of those. And then there's another one on September 8th of 2022. Watch as you will see the Biden unmasked. Lord, what do you mean? How is this possible? My children, your enemies have lied for years and have had actors in places on multiple occasions, but never as much as they had to do with the Biden. He is a fake, a liar, an actor, and an imposter in more ways than one. Elon Musk him in front of the world will know that this was all an act, a fake, a really bad clown show, and their props and sets and all their fake backdrops and pristine lighting to hide things from the audience's sight. Your enemies truly believe you were stupid enough to fall for their show, but they didn't count on an awakening to shake up the world to see the truth. Get up, my children, and call these imposters out of their places of power. It's not theirs to have. It never was, says the Lord of hosts. And then there's another one. But again, I think it was one of the first ones was January 25th of 2022. When he says, Joe, you are finished, and the one who betrayed you is also finished. This is a pathetic example as a world leader. You are only a puppet, and you will go down like a puppet forever. Your fall is great. They can't hide the truth about you and about anyone any more of the Biden. The puppet masters are done with you. They can't control you or your mouth, and the world is now mocking and turning against you, Biden, or the Biden, and used to doing their bidding. You were always expendable. No matter which Biden you are, nothing will save you. So no matter what the Biden and who betrayed the Biden, they were always expendable. And that's what he was saying. They were obviously betraying Joe, but they really weren't the Joe Biden. Then he talks about Jill. Jill, you thought you were safe because you bowed to their every command. Well, now the world will know that you knew your real Joe was gone. That you lied to the world about who you stood by in public, and that he was just another pathetic puppet on the world stage who was a bigger fraud that your husband used to be. His death is being uncovered. My people who have infiltrated your camps have the green light to expose the truth. Jill, you knew about the children, because also he was dealing with pedophilia and the whole thing with the children, and you never stopped it because you were a coward. You cared more about yourself, money, and power. The target is on your back, and you will pay a high price, just like your Joe did. You are not safe, Jill, and neither are the ones who control your puppet strings.
Wow. It's just amazing. That's why you got to give God the glory. There's just no way a human could ever come up with this stuff. And how specific the words are 2-3 years ago. And if you looked at this, anybody that didn't know what was going on would look at this prophetic word and say, there's just no way that could be. And guess what? It can be, and it's coming, and more is to come. That's how great God is, because he gets the glory. Wow. Wow.
She knew, along with a lot of other people. I mean, they could not hide this. And that's why I told people to go watch that movie, Dave, because Dave was an actor. Or he just looked like the real president at the time. And it was actually his chief of staff of the real president that was running the show. And they just had this guy come out and appease the people, and it looked like he was doing things. He was given scripts to say. He was given only things to do. And then when he went off the scripts is when they started getting really angry. And so this is just something that we saw right in front of our face. We saw an actor betraying, or actors betraying, somebody who's supposed to be running the country. And we now know that's not true. And you also got to think about this Biden gate was also the auto pen.
Yeah.
This is another huge thing. I mean, there's so many scandals along with Bidengate, the 2020 stolen election, January 6th, the auto pen, and then him not being real. And everybody knowing about it, or certain people know about it, certain people in the inner circle, maybe some of the lower ranking people didn't know. I don't know how you didn't know. I mean, just looking at him was obvious, but some people just believe everything they see.
Well, you talk about the pedophilia part, that's been confirmed through WikiLeaks, came out with that. And Liz Crokin talks about that quite a bit. But the hot dogs and pizza parties that Obama had in the White House, and Biden was part of that. They were doing these things in the White House. So just the horrific things that they have done inside the White House is just sickening.
And God said that, remember, he called it a house of red, the red house. He said, you call it the White House, but I call it the house of the red, or something along those lines. And he said that every dirty secret that was in those walls and what happened in those rooms would be exposed. We also know, again, when he says red, to me, red is blood. Mm-hmm. You know that they did blood sacrifice. You know they did things against the children. I guess I didn't hear about the part about Biden and Joe doing things in the actual White House like that. So again, this goes so far than just a stolen election. It just does, and people have to realize that, and that's why God's giving greater detail. I mean, I haven't even gotten to the Biden gate prophecy of how deep that this goes and what he was showing us and what he was showing us after this prophecy, or before this prophecy as well, and after. These things are just huge, and he's getting more detail, but just like when he said that Jill knew about the children, and that's why we knew he went to Delaware. He went to Delaware to get the fix, so he would stop acting certain ways in public. And then, of course, we know not only was he doing things to the children in awful ways, but they were also doing the adrenochrome to try to keep him more alive as well. So it was the sexual stuff, and it was also the blood stuff.
Wow.
Against the children.
And
That's
they say that the withdrawals of that are like the most brutal thing you could ever imagine. Worse than any drug out there. If you don't get your fix, it's terrible. It's just totally disgusting. Every
other weekend he was in Delaware. It was to get that. It's like, kind of like a crack addict. You know what I mean? You have to get that fix, and that's what they were doing with him. And it's just sad because you knew all these people knew about it, and they stood by and did nothing.
Yeah, that's the question I want to know when this is all done. How many people knew and should have said something and didn't say something? Because if you're in a position to say something, you need to say something, especially something of this magnitude. It's absolutely insanity. Going back to the production, we know it's a production because, when the January 6th committee came out to go after the January 6ers, they brought in an ABC producer to produce it. They didn't even hide that fact. Okay. Yeah, he was a producer from ABC who filmed and choreographed the whole committee. And then again, why would you put a pardon on all these committee members when there's no crime committed? Except the auto pen is coming apart. Those pardons are not, they're gone.
When he talked about the production studio and all that kind of stuff, we're also going to find out why there was a fake White House. Because there was a fake set. We all know it. I mean, Alina Hama even joked around about it and was there to show it. Why would they need that? There was a reason why they needed it. So he's going to show us all of the Hollywood sets that they used during Biden's residency. Because it was more than just the White House one.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. He was more fake than people realize.
Well, there's a Secret Service whistleblower that just came out, I think, last week and said, I think he might have been a Secret Service for maybe Jill or maybe both. I don't know how it works, but said specifically that Jill, elderly abuse towards Joe, was violent with him, put him in corners, treated him like a little child. And that's harsh. I don't know if she was doing that because he wasn't the real Joe, but either way, it's not pretty.
No, and another thing, it was a person that just came out, I think, a couple of days ago, that said he kept getting lost in the White House closet, like his closet in the White House of his bedroom.
That's bizarre.
And he kept, it wasn't just happening at like one time. It happened on multiple occasions. Apparently, he got lost in his closet bedroom.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. That's how bad this person was. And then you have Bill Clinton come out. I don't know what show he was on and who he was getting interviewed by, but he said that, Biden was, strong, and he was, a great leader, and there was nothing wrong with him. And it's like, you're just saying that because your rear end is also on the line.
Wow.
So they can't come out against him, because they know come out against him, then the whole cost of cards comes down. But it's going to come down anyway. But they're not doing it because they like Joe. They're doing it to save themselves. That's why they're doing it.
If we could go back in time into, let's say, 2019, 18, well, a little farther back, because I knew quite a bit about this in 2018, but 2016 or so, nobody in their right mind could even come up with this as a movie script, let alone being real.
Not to this length. Like I said, the one about Dave, it was outlandish, and it was like crazy because this, the president, was having an affair. He had a stroke when he was having an affair with his secretary. They put him in the basement of the White House on life support, and then they tried to go find somebody that looked exactly like him and then portrayed him. So they did go to this extent in a movie, but not to the extent that these people went. In real life, they went far beyond that, because they didn't just use one person. They used multiple people. They used the AI. They used the robotics. They used people running the show. I mean, you think about it. You have Jill Biden signing documents that only a president can sign. Remember when she was on a document that she was not supposed to be on? It was only supposed to be the president of the United States, and somehow she was on it. I can't remember what it was.
I remember that.
That's not, you can't do those kind of things. They did it, but they thought that we were too stupid to figure it out.
Well, there was a undercover James O'Keefe this week got, it was either this week or end of last week, David Hogg, one of the Democrat leaders, he got caught on tape saying that the true power behind the presidency was Joe Biden's chief of staff. I can't remember what his name was, but he was afraid of him. He was the true power behind all of it. And I believe that was one of the names that was behind the auto pen as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't place Biden or Obama out of it. He was there running the show as well. He just maybe not that close into the White House, but he was running the shadow government in D.C. for sure.
Yep.
And he's going to be in big trouble. I don't know how many profits I've had on him recently. It's insane how much exposure that he is going to hit. I mean, it's going to hit him hard. And that's going to be really great to see, because he's so evil.
To me, that still is the most amazing thing. How he got away with everything he did. Yeah. How he got away with Michelle, Mike. How he got away with his lifestyle. Because as I've said many times, he dated my boss back in 2004. I knew about it. There's got to be hundreds, if not thousands, of people that knew who he was and what he was up to. And that went secret. Everybody covered it up. His birth certificate. Being in Columbia. There was a Columbia professor that came out, I think, 2 weeks ago and says, I knew every student during that period of time that went through. I never knew this Barry guy. Never saw him.
It's funny. Why did he have to change his name?
Exactly.
Who changes their name when they go to college? No one.
And why did he choose the name?
Oh, I didn't think about why he chose the
Barack
Barry.
Hussein Obama. Yeah. Barack is lightning. Jesus warned of this, but lightning and then a mountain. I saw Satan coming down as lightning onto the mountain. That's what Barack Obama means.
Oh, yeah. And now I remember, I think he said that a long time ago. I forgot about that. So is his real name Barry, or is his real name Barack?
His real name is Barry Sordo.
Well, that's his real name.
I think so. Yeah, okay. I think so. I think he changed it. Maybe for his so-called. Remember, he claimed he was a Christian. He was never a Christian. He was always wearing an Islam ring on his hand. He was sworn in by what's his name, Rick Warren, on a Quran. And how he got away with it? It's the fake news. Everybody in the fake news, there's many that knew about this and kept their mouth quiet or were paid off. But to me, that is just as much treason that they didn't report the truth.
And we're going to find out he wasn't legitimate anyway. He might have gotten the votes in 2008, but it didn't matter because he wasn't born in this country. And we're going to find out his birth certificate. We're going to find out he's illegitimate. So not only the 2020 election, think how many elections are going to be thrown out.
Yep.
Just with Biden's and Obama's. So just let's say, for you just throw out 3. Well, there's going to be more because you also have midterms in the middle of those. Think about how much damage those two did to this country. in the years they were residents in the White House. And all of it will be undone in a day.
Well,
Take
04.
a whole bunch of bills and executive orders. No, you committed treason. You broke the law. You were not legitimate, and everything you did will be gone in one day.
In 2004, they did too. I was a director at AT&T in 2004, and I happened to be in the company. I'm not going to say who the company was. And they wanted packet data for their machines. Why would you need packet data for your voting machine? That means connected to the internet and being mobile. It was one of the largest deals that AT&T ever got. So I didn't think of it until a couple of years ago. Mike Lindell and I are having this conversation about the machines, and I'm like, wait a minute. I remember way back to 2004. They stole that one too.
Yeah, they did. God said we're going to be shocked of how many they stole.
Wow.
Because people only go back to like 2020. Well, they were trying to steal the 2016 election. And
Yep.
you know the House numbers weren't right. You know the Senate numbers weren't right. When was the last time we had legitimate people in the House and in the Senate alone? When was the last time we had legitimate governors or state legislatures? How many? How many are not there because they were voted in? It's a lot. They were not voted in. People did not. They stole elections, and they got so good at stealing elections. I mean, they made a whole entire system out of it, and they got away with it, they thought, in 2020, but everybody could see the forest through the trees and see what was really going on. They still suppressed it no matter how much evidence came out. God even sent a prophetic word he gave to me. I even gave out yesterday, the day before that the whole Rudy Giuliani case is coming out. And those two women and what their assignments were and what happened in Atlanta. I know we talked about this before because God has talked about this for years. He's talked about Georgia. He's talked about the Atlanta case. And he was saying all of that. And he brought up Maricopa County again and all of those things that they were hiding in those two. I mean, he's gone after Maricopa County and Atlanta, Georgia, I think more than any other states and the other counties. That they were going to be caught for election fraud, and every single thing that they did to steal the election for Joe and or the Biden and where the instructions came from and how they pulled it off will all be exposed. The intelligence community got a lot to do with it.
I was told in Atlanta, Georgia, I think I probably brought this up a couple of years ago. I was told that some good guys, I'll just say good guys, planted cameras in there that they didn't know that were there. And so they captured all of what happened in the Rudy Giuliani case. It's all on video. They got it.
Yeah, I think I remember you saying that.
Yep.
Now that you mentioned it, that you said that there was a camera somewhere that they don't know about.
Yeah, there were several.
That's he's infiltrators. And he says he has so much more evidence than these people realize because they think they destroyed it when God has his own people have the evidence all on their own, and they have it all, even though the enemy doesn't realize it yet.
Wow.
I think some of the things that Trump says in public or some of the things he truths out, I think they're starting to get a clue. Like I said, especially with the whole Biden thing, they're getting a clue. What does he know? He must know a lot more than we think he does.
Yeah, and he does. The thing is, they got away with it for a long time because America was pretty much divided, 51-49 Democrat, Republican. But what changed in 2020 is that it went deep. That was a blowout. I mean, if it would have been a close, they would have got away with it. But the majority of Americans were waking up and they know what happened with COVID-19. It shut it down. And President Trump had a great economy going. And then in 2024, he won in a landslide, but it was far bigger than that. They cheated on that one, too. And General McInerney said today they're going to write a book about when he can to tell what happened because they tried to steal it again. Kamala thought she was going to get it that night.
Yep. She was kind of like Hillary. Absolutely, positively shocked because they were guaranteed by the establishment there would be no chance that President Trump could win.
Yep.
And he did because God only allowed 2020. He didn't. They tried stealing it and it looked like they stole it. They were just caught in every trap that God set for them.
But see how perfect that is? What a perfect plan, because if that wouldn't have happened, it wouldn't have been the same. They would have been better off letting President Trump just be in office and just fight him all the way until his term was over. But because they doubled down in evil and they walked into a huge trap and started covering up all the trap, they've left themselves vulnerable, and it woke America and the world up. And now we know, and they're going to know.
You know, they keep talking. It was President Trump. I think it was maybe Don Jr. or somebody, and they were wearing 2028 hat or something like that, and it sparked a wildfire. You don't have to have an election if you won something that was stolen from you.
Yeah, so there's another constitutional. What do you do if a president was stolen in 2020? How many terms can he have? This is going to open up, going back to what God told you, unprecedented. Yep.
Yeah. Even if it's just one that they give back to him, I mean, whether or not, he would do the whole thing or whatever, but it is his right to have it. Now, was he still the president during the Biden years?
Mm-hmm.
They were doing a lot of things under the radar, or they wouldn't be able to be as prepared as they were. And I think a lot of people still knew that he was running, that President Trump was the real president. So he was able to do a lot of things. That's why when he got back in, he was able to just take off running because he was the president. And we all know it.
He planned
and we're
it.
going to find out. Yeah. He planned to let them okay, fine. I'm just going to keep doing these things. You can keep falling on your face because that's exactly what you're going to do. I mean, they could have picked anybody better than Biden. I mean, they would have been better off with Bernie Sanders.
Yeah. Yep.
Or, whatever. I mean, they would have been better off with him than they were with Joe Biden. But if Bernie wasn't a complete establishment person and wouldn't go with everything that he was told to do, then they wanted a yes man. And Biden was it because they had enough dirt on Biden that he couldn't say no.
Yep.
Exactly. No matter what they asked him to do.
It's where the blackmail, the P. Diddy, the Epstein stuff comes in and it's used for blackmail. Chief Justice Roberts, Lord's not done with Chief Justice Roberts at all either. He's going to be coming. He should be very nervous. Matter of fact, I heard a rumor, and it's just a rumor from somebody that knows. I don't know if he said he heard it or it's whatever it was. It's not vetted yet. That Roberts is considering stepping down. The only reason he would step down is if the House of Cards is coming down on him.
So I just had a huge prophetic word. It was the first one, I think, on Sunday. So the Biden Gate prophecy was the second one. The first one I have is an extremely long one on the Supreme Court again. And I don't know how many prophecies I've had regarding Roberts and him saying that he's no longer the chief. And he was going to be judged for his dirty lifestyle and his dark secrets were going to come out. But God said that one will be removed and one wasn't going to survive. So, and then I think he said there was more of them, because I have this in my notebook right now, but he went really hard on the judicial system, and especially the Supreme Court. Wow. So we're going to start seeing changes in people in the Supreme Court for sure.
Yeah, you got one. You got one right now that's ineligible based on the auto pen. The last Supreme Court, Brown, she's not eligible. So you got to President Trump should be able to put that one in place as well. Oh my goodness! Again, it's unprecedented.
He did mention he was disappointed in Amy Coney Barrett. President Trump did. That's the first time I think I ever heard him say anything against her. But yeah, it's pretty bad. But again, God said he had to clean and clear out the highest court in the land for justice to be brought back in this country.
Yep.
So we're going to find out what they've been doing behind closed doors because they've been doing a lot of things. He's going to show and prove their instructions to ignore the 2020 election cases, to suppress the information what was going on 26 or the January 6th cases. He's showing what they were doing with all the indictments against President Trump, how they were told to stand down in a lot of these different things. They did, help him somewhat here and there, but not really. But if we actually had a Supreme Court doing their job, 2020 election would never have been upheld.
Exactly.
Ever.
That's exactly right.
So we're going to find out who the people were that gave them those instructions to say stand down and do not accept any of these cases and do not rule on them. Because if you rule on one, then the rest of them will fall.
That's fascinating. That brings up something I was told a couple before the election, that the Supreme Court had the evidence to overturn it, and it was decided not to just let the regular election play out, so more exposure would come. So I don't know if that's going to come out, that they did rule on it, or took it up to them before and they sat on it, or it was part of the plan just to let it roll out, because now President Trump's got 4 more years.
President Trump has 4 more years, and he might have more than that.
He might have more than that. Yep. Wow.
Yeah. So you want me to get to the Biden gate with a couple minutes we have left, or do you want me to get to the AI?
Yeah, Biden gate. We can pick up AI.
Right. So, oh my United States, I'm setting you free from the lies that have held you in captivity. 2020 big lie is about to take an ugly turn against your enemies. Biden gate has begun to collapse before your very eyes. One of the biggest scandals in American history will be brought down every other scandal that has been holding this country hostage from the establishment. Yes, Biden gate is falling. Biden will be proven illegitimate by the stolen election, how he wasn't even the real Joe at all, but imposters in his place. Also, how the rogue, out-of-control deep state conducted business and controlled this country by using swamp rats, making decisions, signing bills that only a president can sign. You will really see who tried to run this country right into the ground. You will see every decision that was made was to collapse the nation financially through inflation, interest rates, overloading the system with illegal immigration, taking what belongs to American people. So we're going to find out about the auto pen. We're going to find out how it was them running the show, and obviously not the Biden. He said it wasn't just the fact that other people were running the show. It was the fact of what they were doing. They were purposely signing these bills with this auto pen and doing things to collapse this country as fast as it could. That's also going to be another scandal that's going to be proven true. Then it says, collapsing this nation socially with open borders to tear apart the Constitution in every way to bring terrorists, murderers, rapists, and out-of-control drug cartels. So that there wouldn't be law and order, because law enforcement would be overrun by millions of people who did not belong here, causing chaos and havoc alone with the ones who lived in this country that were all already doing so. So then he's talking about how they were bringing this country down socially. They had to do that socially to bring an unstable environment for law enforcement. So there's no law and order at all. The law enforcement were completely overrun, plus they were defunded. And the reason for their doing that is because you can't have a third world country. You can't bring in a socialism and communism if you have a strong united nation. And it says they try to collapse the nation by getting rid of religious freedoms, bringing in a great divide in the church body by sending informants, their infiltrators, to deceive and distract and destroy my children in every way they possibly could. They tried to collapse this country through vaccines, pushing regulations, and to push everything they could as fast as they could, because they were behind schedule to destroy this country for the one world government takeover. The reason why they were behind schedule is because Hillary Clinton should have had 2 of those years, and then Biden or somebody else was going to have 2 years. So it would have been, or 2 terms, so it would have been 16 years straight. They didn't get it. This rogue regime used the intelligence community to spy on you, silence anyone who got in their way. They use social media to spark division, misinformation, the propaganda, to confuse people, to bring fear, hopelessness as much as they possibly could. They try to weaken your souls in every way so that you'd be too weak to fight them back, and you'd be easy to confuse and easy to deceive and to control. So again, they use the intelligence community to weaken the people of America. The Twitter files are nothing compared to what will be released regarding Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Google, and TikTok. My children, they use social media to keep you distracted while they tore apart your lives and your nations. Scandal after scandal is coming, and the intelligence community will be ripped apart. Every traitor, deep state informant, every criminal and murderer will be exposed and removed. Get used to hearing tribunals. I've told you about this word before, but now it is time you will hear and see tribunals, judging and sentencing of your enemies and getting rid of all the treasonous traitors against you. Biden Gate will bring down the old guard entirely. Biden Gate will destroy Obama's entire shadow government. It will bring down corrupt judges, AGs. It will bring down governors who helped steal the election for the Biden. Secretaries of state who also made sure ballots were brought in illegally and counted more than once to help the Biden. Their instructions were clear in 2020 to not let Trump in no matter how many times the ballot was counted. Then he goes on to talk about what happened with China, and China will be proven that they made ballots. They were paid by the establishment to bring in the ballots over here to count them because they didn't have enough to override the system with President Trump and how much he gained traction with the voters. Talked about the Atlanta case, talked about the suitcases, talked about Arizona. Then he said how everything that held the Biden in the White House will be annihilated and brought to nothing along with everyone with it. The situation was not the fact that they just stole an election. They also used a puppet, somebody who wasn't even the person who was supposedly people were voting for. The scandal is a scandal of all scandals. It will destroy the establishment in every way, and you will see the collapse right in front of you. And then it goes on to January 6th. January 6th instructions are coming out, who all participated, will be brought out in public. Judgment will hit them hard. The treason they all committed that day will be exposed. The entire plot is on a laptop. I wanted to get to that point to you today. Entire plot is on a laptop. Communications of politicians across Washington and the intelligence community designed to help pull this off. Yes, the FBI was heavily involved, but the CIA led the charge that day. And it goes on to talk about more about Nancy Pelosi. She was the scapegoat, and on and on and on about different elections and Russiagate and how he's bringing all of it down. I mean, this was a very detailed, long prophetic word. I couldn't even get to all of it.
When was this one?
This was Sunday morning.
Oh my goodness! Oh, so this is all new.
This part was all new. He's talked about these things before, but he brought it out more in detail than he has before.
Wow. So a laptop we've talked about many times. We know somebody has it, or at least a copy of it. Others have it. A friend of ours, I think, has it too. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he has it. The other is all this stuff is coming down. It ties into what Michelle Bachmann said yesterday. She warned of all these things to Congress, to the world, and people shot her down. Muslim Brotherhood infiltrating our entire government to bring it down. That was the goal of these illegals coming in, was to destroy America from within. General Boykin has said that too, with Obama taking out our good generals. So this was a plan just to bring America down. It wasn't just get illegals in and have a new account. That's what it was. So, all right, I think we're wrapping up. Julie, we're going to go to part 2, but Julie, what a Wednesday with Julie Green.
Thank you for having me on again. I can't wait till the next time.
Của bang chủ từ sớm, nếu xạo mộ bát thiếu gia, lập tức tiến lên tham kiến, mặc kệ phân công. Diệp không đương nhiên không có việc gì phân công cho hắn, nhưng nghĩ tới rất lâu rồi không gặp Lô Tuấn Lô Nghĩa, chính mình lập tức trở lại, phải bế quan Trường Kỳ, vậy thì đi gặp một chút đi, hỏi chỗ của huynh đệ Lô Tuấn Lô Nghĩa. Diệp không đi qua, hai tên huynh đệ này đang ngồi trong quán cơm khoác lác. Dù sao vô sự, một bữa cơm ăn mấy tiếng đồng hồ đúng là bình thường. Trông thấy Diệp không đến, cả hai chạy ra nghênh đón, chào hắn, miễn. Diệp không khoát tay nói ra, trong bang còn yên ổn không? Nhà môn có hay cùng các ngươi gây phiền toái không? Nhờ phúc của bác thiếu gia, sau lần đó, nhà môn cũng không dám tìm chúng ta gây phiền toái. Những tên nhà dịch nhìn thấy chúng ta cũng phải khom người. Lô Tuấn nói là sự thật. Quan phủ đối với Long Hổ Bang rất khách khí, cũng là vì cảm thấy Diệp không dễ chọc. Nếu không có Diệp không trèo trống, thành chủ Trần Thanh Thiên đã khai đao với Long Hổ Bang rồi. Lô Nghĩa cũng bổ sung nói ra, nhân tâm trong bang rất ổn định, mọi người biết rõ sau lưng có lão nhân gia ngài đứng chống lưng, cho nên rất túc kính. Túc kính là làm gì? Uống rượu phao nữ nhân hay đi dạo kỹ viện? Diệp không mỗi lần gặp hai người này rất hoan hỉ mà gõ đầu. Đây cũng là thói quen của hắn ở địa cầu. Hắn lại nói tiếp, làm lưu manh cũng phải có văn hóa. Các người có chút thời gian nên xem nhiều sách, không nên ngồi quán rượu tới giữa trưa. Lần trước bảo các ngươi rồi làm series Young and Dangerous, tập tành làm giang hồ. Các ngươi làm chưa? Muốn cải thiện hình tượng của các ngươi trong lòng mọi người. P.S. Tiếng Anh là thằng Diệp không cố tình nói ra. Biết rõ, đang làm, và mấy tên thư sinh đang đi kịch. Đến lúc đó, thỉnh bác thiếu gia hân hạnh chỉ đạo. Tham gia cái gì nhỉ? Diệp không nói quá nhiều từ lạ. Lô Tuấn thường xuyên quên. Thủ diễn thức, Lô Nghĩa nhắc nhở. Đúng, thủ diễn thức, bác thiếu gia ngài đa mưu túc trí. Quỷ kế đa đoan, thấy chưa? không có văn hóa, từ ngữ mà cũng không biết dùng. Còn quỷ kế đa đoan, ngươi mới là quỷ kế đa đoan. Diệp không muốn bảo Lô Tuấn một cái, nói ra, các ngươi trước làm đi, có thời gian ta sẽ đi xem, cho dù không có thời gian, các ngươi không có việc đừng tìm ta, có việc thì bảo Lô Cầm truyền cáo. Diệp không phân phó hết liền chuẩn bị đi, nhưng huynh đệ Lô gia lại giữ chặt hắn, báo cáo với hắn, gần đây bọn họ thu được trong dân gian không ít tài bảo, muốn Diệp không đến nhìn qua. Đây cũng là Diệp không an bài. Hắn có được ngũ hành thăng tiên kinh và ẩn vũ, đều là bảo vật gia truyền, còn bị người khác cho rằng là rác rưởi không đáng tiền. Cho nên Diệp không đối với bảo bối lưu lạc dân gian rất để bụng. Mà Tương Nam đại lục này có mấy chục vạn năm truyền thừa, rất nhiều người trong nhà có bảo vật tổ truyền, nhưng đại đa số người nhận định thành rác rưởi. Diệp không nghe xong đại hỉ, lập tức đi theo huynh đệ Lô gia trở về. Đi vào một phòng nhỏ, chỉ thấy bên trong có đủ loại đồ vật, những thứ này đều là bảo vật gia truyền của dân chúng trong thành. Bọn họ giữ lại mà không có biết dùng, cho ít tiền, liền đem bán, cũng không biết bên trong có bảo vật hay không. Kính xin bác thiếu gia dùng tuệ nhãn giám bảo. Lô Tuấn dẫn Diệp không tiến vào gian phòng. Linh thạch, Diệp không nhìn thấy ở giữa những món đồ này có mấy quả đồ vật sáng bóng. Linh thạch tổng cộng có 5 khối, tuy hơi ít, nhưng có còn hơn không? Diệp không trực tiếp cất vào trong túi trữ vật. Có thể kế tiếp, Diệp không cũng không biết có đồ tốt gì. Có bồn, có bình, có côn gỗ, có cỏ cây, còn có cây quạt, có sách vở, có tấm gương. Tóm lại, rực rỡ muôn màu, đồ chơi gì cũng có. Còn có rất nhiều thứ Diệp không cách nào nói ra tên của nó. Không biết là gì, Diệp không hiểu, có thể là có người hiểu. Lập tức, Diệp không đi gọi Hoàng Tuyền lão tổ, kêu gọi cả buổi, cuối cùng mới đánh thức lão gia hỏa này dậy. Nhốn nháo cái gì mà nhốn nháo, đến tối rồi sao? Hoàng Tuyền lão tổ đối với việc Diệp không đánh thức hắn rất bất mãn. Lão tổ, nhanh mở to hai mắt xem đi, thiệt nhiều bảo vật đây này. Diệp không đắc ý nói ra. Hoàng Tuyền lão tổ thả thần thức ra, sau đó làm ra bộ dáng rất giật mình, nói to, hoa, thiệt nhiều rác rưởi a. Không phải chứ, những thứ này đều là bảo bối cất chứa trong dân gian. Ngươi chớ xem thường chúng, ảnh ngũ và ngũ hành thăng tiên kinh mà ta tu luyện đều là tìm được từ những thứ ngươi cho là rác rưởi. Diệp không nói ra, đó là ngươi vận khí tốt, dẫm nhằm chó. Hoàng Tuyền lão tổ đưa ngón tay nói ra, ngươi không thấy rác rưởi đầy đất sao? Tam Diệp Lan sinh trưởng không tới 10 năm đã bị hái xuống, còn dùng đào mộc ngàn năm xa hoa để cất chứa, có dám để dùng à? Còn nữa, đây chính là hắc thạch, là một quặng thô có ẩn chứa tiết tinh hàm lượng thấp nhất. Thật sự là tặng người cũng không ai thèm nhận. Một khối linh thạch có thể mua 100 khối, còn có những cái mảnh vỡ này đều là tàn phiến pháp khí, nhưng đều là những pháp khí chế tác sớm nhất. Tàn phiến đánh rắm để dùng à? Đồ vật trong phòng bị Hoàng Tuyền lão tổ nói không đáng một xu. Diệp không tin nói ra, trong nhiều đồ vật như thế mà không có món nào hữu dụng sao? Hoàng Tuyền lão tổ cười cạc cạc nói ra, có thì có 1-2 kiện, nhưng mà lão tổ ta cũng không phải là đầy tớ của ngươi, dựa vào cái gì nói cho ngươi biết? Không phải chứ, ngươi cũng đừng tính toán quá chi ly, chẳng phải mời ngươi xem thôi sao? Ngươi còn muốn chỗ tốt gì chứ? Diệp không có chút không vui, lão gia hỏa này quá hà khắc, chút việc nhỏ ấy cũng đòi chỗ tốt. Hoàng Tuyền lão tổ hừ lạnh một câu, nói ra, tuy giúp người nhìn bảo vật đơn giản, nhưng trong đó có bảo vật tốt nhất, là tài liệu dùng để luyện chế nội giáp. Lão tổ ta giúp ngươi chọn, đó là giúp ngươi rồi, luyện cho ngươi một kiện nội giáp. Nếu ngươi đã không lính tình, vậy thì thôi, chờ ngươi kết đan, có đan hỏa, chính mình luyện đi, ủng hộ chỉ với 1 click và 5. Hết, chương 108, Lang Nhi. Diệp không ngạc nhiên, ngũ hành thăng tiên kinh tăng tính phi thường trọng, đợi đến khi kết đan, chắc lúc đó dâu ria đã bạc rồi. Lão tổ tông, hắc hắc, tiểu tử vừa rồi đúng là vô lễ, ta xin lỗi ngươi. Diệp không mày dạn mặt dày, khẩn cầu một hồi, cuối cùng Hoàng Tuyền lão tổ mới miễn cưỡng đáp ứng. Được rồi, xem việc sau này ngươi bảo vệ ta phi thăng, lão tổ ta sẽ giúp ngươi một hồi. Hoàng Tuyền lão tổ chỉ vào một tấm da thú trong góc, nói ra, chính là tấm da đó, nếu như ta không nhìn lầm, đó là da mặc dao. Mặc dao? Diệp không đi qua cầm lấy tấm da đó lên, thấy thế nào cũng không phải là vật có giá trị. Màu xám biến thành màu đen, bên trên che kín khe rãnh, trong khe rãnh giống như có bùn não, quả thực là chẳng khác gì rác rưởi. Không phải chứ, lão tổ, đi tích cốt, ngươi bảo ta ăn quả của hoang lương thụ mà dân chúng sắp chết đói cũng không muốn ăn. Hiện tại lại bảo ta mặc tấm da giống như rác rưởi này. Vậy thì ta tu tiên sẽ bị nghẹn chết à? Diệp không oán giận nói ra, ngươi hiểu cái rắm. Hoàng Tuyền lão tổ mắng, da mặc dao này chính là một loại quái ngư trong thương hải. Loại quái ngư này bình thường thích nổi lên mặt nước hấp thu thiên địa linh khí. Mà nó có thể hấp thu linh khí là dựa vào da của nó. Mà da của mặc dao cho dù bị tháo xuống, cũng tự động hấp thu linh khí. Có thể nói càng lâu năm càng giá trị. A hát, như vậy à, vậy thì quái ngư mặc dao này rất lợi hại rồi. Diệp không vội vàng ném thứ rác rưởi này vào trong túi trữ vật. Loại quái ngư này không lợi hại, cũng bởi vì nó không lợi hại, cho nên rất ít ỏi. Vừa xuất hiện là bị người ta thu lấy, cho nên mới đáng giá. 10 vạn năm trước cũng đã gần như tuyệt tích. Hôm nay ngươi có thể nhìn thấy là phi thường may mắn. Mà tấm da ngươi thu vào, ít nhất đã bảo tồn trên vạn năm. Nếu như luyện thành nội giáp, lực phòng ngự phi thường cường đại, cho dù bổn mạng pháp bảo của kết đăng kỳ đánh lên, cũng không thể phá nổi. Diệp không bị Hoàng Tuyền lão tổ nói làm vô cùng động tâm. Phải biết rằng trong tu tiên giả, pháp khí công kích tương đối nhiều, cho nên không đáng tiền, mà pháp khí phòng ngự nếu so với pháp khí công kích thì mắc hơn không ít. Nếu pháp khí mà ngay cả bổn mạng pháp bảo cũng không phá nổi, vậy thì nó có giá trên trời. Đương nhiên, Diệp không sẽ không bán. Đây là thứ bảo vệ tánh mạng, nhiều tiền hơn nữa cũng không bán. Lão tổ tông, không biết trong đám rác rưởi còn lại, còn có thứ gì có thể so với da của mặc dao hay không? Khẩu khí Diệp không nói chuyện với Hoàng Tuyền lão tổ khách khí không ít. Hoàng Tuyền lão tổ mắng, tiểu tử, tâm của ngươi đúng là quá đen rồi. Da của mặc dao khả ngộ bất khả cầu, nhiều rác rưởi như vậy mà có thể tìm thấy thứ tốt là vận khí của ngươi tốt. Còn muốn nhiều hơn, ngươi nha, đúng là lòng tham không đáy mà. Diệp không nghiêm mặt, lại hỏi, vậy thứ khác mà ngươi nói có thể cầm là đâu? Ngươi biết, ta là Thái Điểu nha, thứ ngươi không vừa mắt, nói không chừng đối với ta hữu dụng thì sao? Thần thức Hoàng Tuyền lão tổ lại quét một lần, mới lên tiếng, tiểu tử ngươi không phải thích vẽ phù chú sao? Bên kia có một cây bút, trong đó là có 3 cây, nhưng trong đó chỉ có một cây dùng để vẽ thông linh phù bút. Thông linh phù bút, đây chính là họa linh phù bút chuyên môn vẽ phù chú Nga. Diệp không đã sớm chờ mong rất lâu, đi qua xem xét, nếu so bề ngoài của thông linh phù bút với da mặc dao thì khá hơn nhiều. Bút lông lộ ra nét xuất chúng, chẳng những tạo hình kỳ lạ, hơn nữa trên đầu bút có khắc 2 chữ nhỏ, Lang Mi. Diệp không cầm cái thứ gọi là Lang Mi bút vào trong tay, lúc này mới phát hiện bút lông này khác với thông linh phù bút của hắn. Tuy đốt lông do trúc tạo thành, nhưng đốt trúc ở giữa đều là số chẵn, thân bút sáng bóng, cuối cùng là dùng đầu bút chắn, lấp, bịt, mà thông linh phù bút không giống. Nó chẳng những chính giữa thân bút trống rỗng, nhưng lại có mấy cái lỗ nhỏ thông ra đầu bút. Loại xếp đặt thiết kế này nhất định là thuận tiện cho người chế phù quán chú linh khí vào. Tiểu tử, người biết lai lịch của cây phù bút này không? Hoàng Tuyền lão tổ cười hỏi, ngươi đang làm khó ta đấy. Diệp không cười nói, nghe tên là biết rõ, Lang Mi chính là dùng lông mi của sói làm bút. Hoa, cần phải giết bao nhiêu sói mới có thể gom góp được thành đầu bút a? Hoàng Tuyền lão tổ cười khẩy nói ra, giết bao nhiêu sói cũng không sao cả. Ngươi cũng biết Lang Mi này dùng của loại sói nào không? Ngươi có biết tại sao lông mi của nó lại có màu trắng hay không? Diệp không là Thái Điểu, có thể gọi là cùi bắp, vừa tu tiên, hơn nữa hắn không có bao nhiêu hiểu biết về Tương Nam Đại Lục. Những thứ này, hắn không thể lên mặt ta đây được, phải chịu khó học hỏi kẻ khác a. Lòng hư vinh của Hoàng Tuyền lão tổ cũng được thỏa mãn. Lúc này mới cười nói, đây là lông mi của Nguy Hư Chi Lang, là loại sói đặc biệt trên Nguy Hư Thánh Sơn, phi thường lợi hại, nhưng dùng Lang Mi chế thành phù bút, cũng được gọi là Lang Mi bút. Cũng chỉ có Lang Mi của Lang Vương mới được gọi là Lang Mi, bởi vì Lang Vương thọ hạn thật dài, cho nên lông mi mới trắng, cho nên